Hello students. So today we'll be discussing the surface anatomy of the thorax. Surface anatomy is the projection of the deeper structures of the body onto the surface. It helps us in visualizing the deeper structures such as the bony landmarks and the viscera of the body just by examining the surface. So it is equally important for clinicians and as well as surgeons. So right now in the surface anatomy of thorax, we will discuss this in as bony landmarks, as landmarks of soft tissue, and as projections of a certain viscera inside the body onto the surface. All right. So starting off with the bony landmarks, we can see the two subcutaneous bones, clavicle on both the sides. Then in the midline we have the sternum. The sternum itself is divisible into the manubrium of the sternum, then the body of the sternum, and then the xiphoid process down below. Just on top of the manubrium, on the upper border of the manubrium, we have the suprasternal notch. The suprasternal notch is important because right here we can palpate the trachea of the patient. So for palpating trachea, and if there is some deviation in the path of the trachea because of certain lung pathology, we can identify it right here. Then moving 5 centimeters down from the, we have the sternal angle. The sternal angle is a very important landmark in thorax. This is the joint between the manubrium and the body of the sternum, and this is where the second costal cartilage of each side comes and joins to the sternum. So this is where we can identify the second rib, and that in turn helps us in identifying the rest of the ribs of the thorax. Right, so this is the second one. Then we have the second intercostal space, third rib, fourth, fifth, sixth, then going down to 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and then if we turn it around, we have the 11th and the 12th, which are the floating ribs. These are not visible on the front of the thorax. While we're back here, let's also see the impressions of the spines of the thoracic vertebra on the back. So first of all, we can identify that at the root of the spine of the scapula we have the T3 or the third thoracic vertebral spine. Then counting down from there, we have T4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. Alright, so this is the one from which the 12th rib is originated. So this is T12 right here. And going upwards, we have T2, T1, prominent cervical vertebrae. Here we can also see that the inferior angle of the scapula, this is T3, T4, T5, T6, T7. So T7 is coinciding with the inferior angle of the scapula. Okay, now turning it back around. So this is one of the importances of the sternal angle, that we can count the ribs from down here. Another important factor here is that this is the plane that divides the superior mediastinum from the inferior mediastinum. Also, this is the point where the ascending aorta ends, then the arch of the aorta begins, and then the descending aorta also begins. Right? So the ascending aorta comes up until this point, then the arch of the aorta begins and ends at this point, and then the descending aorta continues. Right, this is also the point where the pulmonary trunk, it bifurcates into two pulmonary arteries. This is situated at the point of vertebral disc between T4 and T5 on the back of the body. So the thoracic duct, it runs upwards on the right side of the sternum, and then it crosses the T5, and then at the level of sternal angle it comes to the left side. So this is another important surface landmark for sternal angle. So as you can see, this is a very important point, and we need to remember all the events that take place at the sternal angle. Right, now moving down to the xiphisternum or the xiphoid process of the sternum. Right here we can see that there is this joint is the xiphisternal joint. It can be felt as a faint transverse ridge down here, and on both sides the costal cartilages of the 7th rib to the 10th rib, they continue down here to make this angle, which is the substernal angle. So the substernal angle, it houses the xiphoid process, and this area is known as the epigastrium. We'll get into the details of the epigastrium when we study abdomen, but for now we need to remember that this is the epigastric area and this is the substernal angle. Okay, another surface landmark that we can see right here is the nipple. So the nipple in males is present in the 4th intercostal space. Because of this mummification of the body, it has sort of shifted upwards, but in a live individual it will be present somewhere here in the mid clavicular line in the 4th intercostal space. Alright, so this will be the mid clavicular line, that is the midpoint of the clavicle going vertically downwards. On both the sides, these are the mid clavicular lines. Another important line in the surface marking of thorax is mid axillary line. So it is the line between the two axillary folds, the anterior and the posterior. Anterior axillary fold formed by the pectoralis major and the posterior axillary fold formed by the latissimus dorsi and the teres major, right? So in between them, this line runs downwards and this is the mid axillary line. On the back, an important line is the scapular line, which runs vertically downwards through the inferior angle of the scapula. So the inferior angle of the scapula is traversed by the scapular line on the back. Right, so now we'll see the surface marking of the pleura. So this is the medial 1/3 of the clavicle and this is the middle 1/3 of the clavicle. So 2.5 centimeters just above this point, this will be the highest point of the dome of the pleura. The pleura and the lung, they invaginate into the root of the neck, and so a dome is formed like this. Then for the interior border of the pleura, we extend this line downwards and medially it crosses the sternoclavicular joint and then it comes in the median plane at the sternal angle. Same goes for the left side. The line traverses through this joint and onto the sternal angle in the medial plane. Now on the right side, this line goes downwards up to the level of 6th costal cartilage. So this is the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th costal cartilage. Up to the 6th costal cartilage on the right side. But on the left side, this line goes down only up to the 4th costal cartilage in the median plane. So 2nd, 3rd and 4th, and then it forms a cardiac notch. So the pleura, it goes outwards, it arches outwards outside the lateral border of the sternum and then goes downwards up to the 6th costal cartilage. Alright, so this is the difference between the right and the left side. Now the rest of the reflection of the pleura is the same. So from 6th costal cartilage, the pleura, it goes outwards and laterally in the mid clavicular line. So we drew the mid clavicular line here. It crosses the 8th rib. So 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. 8th rib in the mid clavicular line. Then in the mid axillary line, it will cross the 10th rib. In the mid axillary line, it will cross the 10th rib and then it will go up to the 2 centimeters lateral to the T12 thoracic spine. So it will, the pleura will come here and it will lie 2 centimeters lateral to the T12. Then it extends upwards, keeping a distance of 2 centimeters from the thoracic spines, and will go up to the C7 or the prominent cervical vertebra. So it will go up to the level of C7 from behind. So this is the reflection of the pleura, and the only difference between the right and the left side is that on the left side we have this notching or arching for accommodating the heart. So an easy mnemonic to remember this surface marking is 2 centimeters just above the clavicle, then onto the second costal cartilage, then at the level of the fourth costal cartilage on the left side it arches out, then it goes up to the sixth costal cartilage, then in the mid clavicular line 8th costal cartilage, then 10th in the mid axillary line, and then 12th on the posterior aspect. So it is running in even numbers, 2 centimeter here, then second costal cartilage, 4th, 6th, 8th, 10th and 12th behind. So this is an easy mnemonic device, so you can remember it easily. So now coming on to the surface marking of the lungs. The lungs, they run pretty much along the lines of the pleura itself, except for a couple of points that we need to remember. So on the left side, at the level of fourth costal cartilage, the pleura, the lung anterior margin, it deviates a little bit more. It arches up to 3.5 centimeters away from the lateral sternal margin. So it goes like this, and then it ends at the level of 6th costal cartilage or 6th rib, 4 centimeters away from the sternal margin. Then another difference that we have here is that the lungs, they traverse, but they are 2 ribs above from the line of the pleura. So for example, in the mid clavicular line it will cross at 6th rib, and then in the mid axillary line it will cross at the 8th rib, and then in the posterior aspect it will go up to the 10th rib itself, right? So this forms a recess between the lung and the pleura. So here we can see that this recess between the anterior border of the lung and the anterior border of the pleura, this is the costomediastinal recess, and this recess right here between the inferior border of the lung and the inferior border of the pleura, this is known as the costodiaphragmatic recess. So 2 types of recesses are formed here, costodiaphragmatic recess and the costomediastinal recess. So now we know that the lung is divided into lobes by presence of fissures in the lung. On the right side we have 2 fissures, whereas on the left side we have just 1 fissure, that is the oblique fissure. So the oblique fissure is common on both right and left sides. So let's see how we can draw that in the surface anatomy. So we will start off with third thoracic vertebra. So the spine of third thoracic vertebra, which we discussed, was in front of the root of the spine of the scapula. So from here an oblique line is drawn along the medial border of the scapula in an abducted arm. It will go in the mid axillary line to a point where the 5th rib comes. So this is the 5th rib. So we join this oblique line from the third thoracic vertebra. Then following it up, we extend this line up to the medial plane at the level of 6th costal cartilage. So this is the 6th costal cartilage, and this is how we extend the oblique fissure of the lung. Now the same is true for the left side also, but the difference here is the horizontal fissure. On the horizontal fissure, we draw a line from the 4th costal cartilage, and it joins the 5th rib in the mid axillary line. So this forms the horizontal fissure and this forms the oblique fissure. This divides the right lung into 3 lobes, whereas it divides the left lung. The oblique fissure divides the left lung into 2 lobes. Okay, now let's discuss the surface marking of the borders of the heart. So we need to draw 4 points and then we'll join them to form the borders of the heart. The first point we need to draw at the lower border of the second costal cartilage. So we'll draw a point right here. Then another point at the upper border of the third costal cartilage. So this is the second point. Then the third point will be drawn 2 centimeters away from the sternal lateral border of the sternum on the right side on the lower border of the sixth costal cartilage. So this is the third point, and the fourth point, which will represent the apex of the heart, that will be in the fifth intercostal space. So second, third, fourth, fifth intercostal space, 9 centimeters to the left of the lateral sternal margin. So approximately right here. Now joining these points, the upper 2 points are joined to form the superior border of the heart. The lower 2 points are joined to form the diaphragmatic or the inferior surface of the heart. Then the left border is somewhat concave and is drawn somewhat like this, and on the right side the border is also concave and it is formed like this. So this will form the borders of our heart. From the lower border of second costal cartilage, the upper border of third costal cartilage, lower border of sixth costal cartilage 2 centimeters away, and then in the fifth intercostal space, the apex of the heart 9 centimeters away from the lateral border of the sternum. So now we'll discuss the surface anatomy of the valves of the heart. So the heart has 4 valves, the 2 atrioventricular valves and 2 semilunar valves. So the atrioventricular valves are respectively mitral on the left side and the tricuspid on the right side. So the mitral valve is present behind the left half of the sternum opposite to the fourth costal cartilage. So this is here, this is where we can mark the mitral valve. Then the tricuspid valve, it will be present on the behind the right half of the sternum opposite to the fourth and fifth costal cartilages. Okay, so it will be almost vertically present over here opposite to the fourth and fifth costal cartilages behind the right half of the sternum. And the mitral valve, it will be opposite the fourth and it will be on the behind the left half of the sternum. Now the semilunar valves, that is the aortic and the pulmonary valve. The aortic valve, it is present behind the left half of the sternum just below the lower border of the third costal cartilage, and the pulmonary valve, it is present also on the left behind the left half of the sternum opposite to the third costal cartilage. So this is the location of the 4 valves. So this was the anatomical positions of these specific cardiac valves, but to auscultate the sounds of the particular cardiac valve, we need to identify different locations. So for the mitral valve, we need to auscultate in the fifth intercostal space where the apex of the heart is present. For the tricuspid valve, we need to auscultate at the lower part of the sternum. So this is where we put the stethoscope for auscultating any disease of the tricuspid valve. For the aortic valve, we need to put the stethoscope at the second costal cartilage, that is just opposite to the sternal angle. So this is where we hear the sound of the aortic valve the best. And for the pulmonary valve, the position is in the second intercostal space on the left side. Alright, so that's all about the surface anatomy of the thorax. Hope you understood well. Thank you.